I just finished a traveling assignment in Florida in Port Charlotte. I worked in Fawcett Memorial Hospital, which is a 238 bed for profit acute care facility. It is part of HCA, which is a Hospital Corporation of America. They own a lot of hospitals all over the United States. Also, this is a level 2 trauma center. One of the terms that I quickly learned in Florida, it's called season. A lot of people come down from northern states and Canada to Florida for the winter. So it starts anywhere in November and ends in beginning of April. Some people come down and then they go back for the holidays and come back down to Florida. So really the busiest time is from January till end of March. In Port Charlotte, there's about 59,000 people, and the population in the area in general grows by about 30%, which is a lot of people. So you will definitely feel that the roads are congested, the wait time at the restaurants is a lot longer, so it's just a little bit more difficult to get around. Also, a great majority of the population is over 65, so the hospitals are very, very busy. They don't go on diversion ever because everyone's busy and they can't turn patients away because they have nowhere else to go. So they just take patients in anyway and do best they can with what they have to deal with. I signed up for an ICU assignment. So in this particular hospital, they have two ICUs. They have a 10-bed medical ICU and 10-bed surgical ICU. I would get to float a lot, probably 50% of the time, but most of the time it was to a different ICU or a step-down unit. Every once in a while, I would float to CDU, one time to ER. Some people got to go to ER more often. I was lucky not to go. The ratio in ICU is just like in most places, you get 2 patients per nurse. If I would float anywhere outside of ICU, I would get only 4 patients. Doesn't matter which floor I would go to just because I am an ICU nurse. There is step-down unit, I believe they take 5, so if you're coming in for a step-down unit, you're probably going to start with 5. Not 100% sure what the ratio is the rest of the hospital or the ER. I would say that my assignment was fair and appropriate most of the time. I had really good time. People were very friendly. I made some friends. They were knowledgeable. And just in general, I was surprised how well people work under pressure. I'm talking about local people that actually live there. They were actually very happy to see travelers come in, even though there was quite a few of us. One of the nurses walked in our orientation on the first day and said, "Hooray, the Marines are here." So that was kind of neat to see that people were actually excited that we got there. Let's talk about the computer system. They use Meditech. I was not familiar with Meditech at all. So this is kind of an older computer system, or at least it's based on a DOS, not window based. So if you're used to anything that's Cerner or Epic that's window based, it's a little bit different and cumbersome to get used to at first because you need to use a lot of directional keys and F keys to do your charting. They try to update the system a little bit to make it more modern and mouse friendly, but at the same time, depending on who's orienting you and telling you what to do, it could be kind of confusing because some people use a mouse more often, the other people just do it the old-fashioned way with direction keys and F keys, which if you know how to use them, it's actually easier and it's not so bad. But at first, it's kind of hard to grasp the idea. Also, it felt like on any given night, about 50% of staff was travelers of some sort. They had regular travel nurses like me. They were traveling there for 3 months. They also had other companies that they would use, even people that would come in for 3 days at a time from a different Florida hospital nearby, like maybe an hour away. They would come in for 3 days. They would work there 3 days and they would stay in a hotel. A hospital would pay for the hotel also. So even though they knew the system, they were familiar with HCA and Meditech, sometimes it was a little bit difficult because if you had questions where to find things in that particular hospital or where to go, they didn't exactly know. So you had to find a core staff, a person that actually lives in the area and works in the hospital to answer some of those questions. Over time, Most of the time, in any given hospital, they didn't want you to work overtime. In this hospital, it wasn't the case. They would let you work as much as you want to work. It kind of depended on you. So in my contract, I was getting double my base pay rate. So my overtime rate was actually less than my regular pay. So that wasn't really worth it for me to work anything extra. I only worked one day and I quickly realized that it just wasn't worth it. So if you're coming down to Florida, be prepared that they're going to ask you to work a lot. If you like to do that and you like to make extra money, make sure you think about that whenever you sign in your contract. Every once in a while, you might have a crazy day with things kind of get out of control a little bit. You're questioning safety. Maybe you're overwhelmed and you just can't keep up or something's going on. Don't be afraid to actually go to your charge nurse or call the supervisor and ask him, hey, this is a little crazy. I'm not used to this. Is that how it goes? How can we fix it? And I've had a couple days like that I needed to talk to someone, and I felt like they were really good at actually listening to me and trying to get a solution for the situation. Towards the end of my assignment, a lot of people were asking, would I come back and work in the same hospital? A little bit of a tricky question, right? Yes, I would come back and I would work in this hospital, and I would do exactly the same thing I did this time. I would sign up for ICU. I like working in ICU. I like the people. I felt like the care in ICU was probably best you can get. And if you get to float, you float to another ICU or step down most of the time. Because the farther away from that you're going to get, things might change a little bit. I don't have too much to say about housing. So we travel in RV. I will include the link in here where we stayed and about our RV park. We did a little review so you could watch that also if that's something you're considering. There is housing in the area. I can't really speak about it too much. A lot of people that I worked with, they basically stayed in a hotel as far as I know. This assignment really worked out for me because we decided to go travel with my family, with my wife and 3 kids. We also have a dog. We are from Cleveland, Ohio. It was snowing and it's cold most of the time in the winter. So we decided to change things up a little bit and went to Florida. So here in Florida, it was awesome. It was warm. We got to go to the beach a lot, explore the area, and I only worked 3 days a week, and I was away from home, so I couldn't do any other extracurricular activity or project as I call them. So I got to spend more time with my family, which really worked out for me. That's something I was looking for. With this episode, we will be wrapping up our traveling to Florida, and we're gonna start heading west. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. We have a video coming out every Sunday. Most of the time it's about our traveling, not as boring video as this week, but I just wanted to share with you my experience and how things went in Florida.